There we go. Good morning and welcome to the Be Free podcast. I am so excited today because I have a lovely lady here who speaks to something which is so close to my heart. I have the lovely Yvette with me today. Hello, Yvette.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited. I have followed Yvette's work online for months and months and desperate to get to one of her events or the possibility of, receiving coaching from Yvette because I feel so aligned to what it is that you share with the world. I've got such similar beliefs and have navigated some similar aspects of path to you. But I just wondered, for the listeners or those of you that are watching, do you want to explain who you are and what you do?
Right. So first of all, just a little bit about me. I'm a human. I'm a woman. I'm a mom to an 8-year-old daughter. I have a dog. I think you can see his ears in the frame if you're watching this. And I'm half Latvian, half Ukrainian. So that's me as a human. And I've also ended up being a Heal Your Life teacher and workshop leader. So basically, I teach people how to love themselves and how to be more emotionally resilient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such incredible work. And I know that it's something that so many people struggle with. And I've had so many clients who I've coached over the years who've been like, don't come to me with that self-love rubbish, totally not into it. And I actually took my little You Can Heal Your Life book, which is so well worn and well used over the years. And I used that process myself during like a big healing in my early 30s. And then I've returned to it this year, actually, as I've navigated another period of really deep healing. So it's been such a great support to me in life. But how did you come to find this path of sharing the work of Louise Hay and these transformative workshops? What led you to that?
Okay, so I think, it started many, many years ago when I was very depressed, like a proper mess. And my friend, she's a Reiki teacher, and she gave me the book, the one you were holding, the Heal Your Life. And she said, you have to read this. This is going to help you. So because I had so much respect towards this person, I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And I remember opening this book and it says, everything is just a thought and a thought can be changed. And I wasn't ready for that. So I thought to myself, what a load of BS. I'm not reading this. So I closed the book, I put it on the shelf, and it was there for a couple of years until a friend suggested this book again, and she sent me an audio version. And I had run out of things to watch on Netflix, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to have a listen. And I listened to this and I was ready. I was ready for it. And it changed the way I looked at life. And I don't want to say that one book changed my life, but it put me on a path of healing, of recovery, and just a whole new life. Yeah, so amazing.
Yeah, like a whole new way of thinking, isn't it? Thinking, seeing life. I love that because it was my Reiki teacher who said to me, you need to read this book.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was seeing her for Reiki at the time because I was like you, was struggling with depression, anxiety, and she suggested that book for me. And yeah, like as you say, can't really say one book changed your life, but I guess it did. It did, and it's provided you now with this career of supporting people in this way. So yeah, it has changed your life.
Yeah,
So
and sorry, just to add to that as well, how I became a Heal Your Life teacher is that I read this book and then I started diving into law of attraction, the science behind it, the neuroscience, quantum physics, all of that stuff, went deep into the physics. And pretty much within a month, I came off antidepressants, and I thought I would be on those for all my life because it was bad. And within a month, I came off the pills and I felt incredible. I felt absolutely incredible. So I was very eager to share this knowledge. So
Yeah.
I started telling all my friends about subatomical particles and frequencies and all the stuff they really didn't care about. And so I had to learn that that's not the way. I don't need to shove this information into people's faces. And then years later, after a lot of learning and studying, I read the Heal Your Life book again. And I realized that it's perfect because it is still based on the same science as, everything else. But it's so simple that if I could take that book, I could teach that philosophy to a 5-year-old and to somebody who has 5 PhDs. And both of those humans could implement this knowledge and better their life. So I was like, you know what? I'm going with this. No subatomical particle talk. That's it. Unless I want to. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I think this constantly blows my mind, actually, how all these things interrelate, the science, the vibrational stuff, the law of attraction stuff, and as you say, the healing work, it all like merges. And yeah, it's just finding, I guess, the right way for each person to tap into that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, from the clients that you work with, would you say there's any kind of theme that shows up for them that prevents them from living the lives they desire? Is there like a main thing?
So I think that there is this core truth, or like the absolute truth, which is you are lovable. And on the flip side of that coin is the core fear that I am not lovable, and which then manifests as a feeling of not being good enough.
Yeah.
And this feeling of not good enough, because that's the core limiting belief we all have, is the fear of not being good enough, fear of not being lovable. And that manifests into so many, behaviors and thinking patterns. So for example, if I feel like I'm unlovable, I don't feel safe within myself. Okay? Which means what I do, I am looking for safety in another person. I look for safety in another city or country, for a place where I will finally belong, like I will finally feel like I fit in. But it's like chasing a shadow, because unless you feel safe within yourself, you won't feel safe anywhere. And a lot of people are not there yet. They are seeking this external safety. And then, of course, not feeling good enough manifests as negative self-talk, right? We all have that. We all do that. We've all been conditioned to, speak badly to ourselves, and we don't even hear it anymore. But really, oh my God, the things we say to ourselves are absolutely horrid. And when during my workshops, I tell people to write this stuff down and tell, now say those things to your partner, they're like, no, I can't do that. Yet you're absolutely fine with saying those things to yourself. And that's sad, because you are listening and your thoughts do affect you. It's not some game, oh, it's fine if I speak to myself like I'm a piece of shit. It does influence how you show up in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, so powerful. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I'm just sitting here thinking, it doesn't matter how many times you hear that, how much healing you've done, there's always more. There's always more. I'm sitting listening to you thinking, oh, I was like thinking about moving house and stuff, and then you just saying that about, being comfortable and safe where you are and who you are. And I'm like, maybe it's me. Maybe it's not the house. I'll have a little review of that after. So yeah, no, it's really quite fascinating, isn't it? How that one thing, well, I guess, growing up, that's all that you kind of want in life, is to be loved, to feel safe, isn't it? Because, you want to be looked after when you're a baby, and then that kind of, transcends through all elements of our life. So why would you say that self-love is, like, you kind of have answered it, I guess, but why is self-love so important?
I think this is one of those questions where I could probably go on for hours.
Yeah.
I'll try not to. You know what? I'm going to give you a visual. I'm going to
Yeah.
give you a very visual example, and that should, change people's perspective on
Yeah.
why it is important. Because I feel like self-love is very, very misunderstood, and there are a lot of myths around it, but
Mm.
touch on that later. So imagine that we meet for a coffee, and I tell you, Susie, I met a guy. And he's so amazing. And I've been seeing him for 3 months now. Everything is great. And I've decided to open a joint bank account with him. And actually, we've already done it, right? So we've already done it. We've opened a joint bank account with this amazing guy, and all my money that I earn goes into this bank account.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't have a bank card attached to this account. So I have no access to the money on the account. He has the card, though. So when he's in a good mood, he'll give me some money, and then I can buy things for myself. And, there are days when he's stressed at work, or he's just not in a mood, or maybe he's busy, and then he gives me no money. And then sometimes I don't eat for days, and I run out of, hygiene products, but that's okay, because then, in a week or so, he'll be in a good mood again, and he will give me some money and I'll eat. What would you say to me if I would tell you that I was doing this?
Yeah, like it's crazy, and it's abuse, isn't it?
Yeah. Yet, so everybody who's listening can agree that this would be a bizarre scenario and I should run.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change that into love, support, and validation account instead of money account,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You have this account, and there is, support, validation, love in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you've given cards, bank cards, to everyone, to your family, to your spouse, to your kids, to your neighbor, to your boss. Everybody has access to that except you.
Mm-hmm.
So people can validate you as they please. When they feel like, telling you, well done, good job, you get some validation, you get some love, you get some support. But there might be days when everybody's busy, nobody cares, everybody has their own stuff going on, and you're on your own and you can't access that bank account.
Yeah.
And that is bizarre to me, when people only rely on external validation, because it doesn't last. It's inconsistent. You can't get it when you want. You depend on other people. Your happiness, your mental well-being depends on whether your spouse is in a good mood and he's going to tell you that you look beautiful. And that will, again, only last for a couple of seconds. And that is it. And that's why self-love is important. Self-love is having that bank card to yourself. And other people can have it and give it to you. That's fine. That's no problem. But having constant access to that yourself, you can validate yourself. You can love yourself. You can support yourself. You can compliment yourself. You can praise yourself. You can do all of that if you allow yourself to do that.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful. And yeah, absolutely. And, I guess we kind of grow up at school seeking that validation as well, getting told, oh, well, yeah, good girl, well done, all of those things. And that's, when we're seen to be more lovable, I guess, isn't it? When you're trying hard and showing up. And yeah, this was taught from childhood. It would be so different, wouldn't it? And I think, as I said, like some of my clients in the past have been like, oh, self-love, what a lot of you, as you said yourself, bullshit. Like, I am not buying into any of that. So what do you think are kind of like the myths and stuff around this? Because I think a lot of people have a kind of almost like a negative about self-love.
There are quite a few myths, and I would love to debunk them here. I think, okay, so one of the myths is that self-love is selfish. Okay, so loving myself is selfish. And I would like to come here and prove to you why it's the opposite of selfish. Okay, so what is a selfish person? A selfish person is somebody who puts their needs above the needs of others. A selfish person is someone who's a burden to other people, basically. So what happens? If I don't love myself, I need external validation. And I need a lot of it, and I need it all the time, right? So if I have a partner, what I do, I'll ask him constantly for this validation. Am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Do you really love me? Why are you with me? Are you sure I'm prettier than the other girls? And I would do that maybe with my kid, with my parents, with my friends, with everyone. And I don't know if you've ever had a partner who's insecure and who doesn't love themselves, or maybe listeners have had a partner like that. But if you have, you know how exhausting it is. And your partner could sit and tell you that you are enough until they are blue in the face. But unless you decide that you are good enough, that will never be enough.
Yeah.
And this person will eventually get tired of it. Or, you become a burden to this person. You are a burden, and you put your need for external validation above everybody else's need for everything else. So you're selfish. However, if you do love yourself and you do not need the external validation, then there's room for everything else.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you asked me about the biggest problems of not loving yourself. I think relationships and inability to receive love is a big one. That's a whole podcast episode right there.
Inability to receive is just like a huge financial stuff, gifts, love. It's a whole new way of thinking and being as well, isn't it? I was out for lunch yesterday with some friends, and have one friend who's driven me about a lot, and I said to her, I'll buy your lunch and your coffee and stuff today because I really appreciate you driving me. And her initial, we were all working with the law of attraction, and her initial reaction was like, oh no, and then she went, thank you. I received that. I really appreciate that. And I was like, yeah, go girl, well done receiving. So yeah,
there are a few more. Sorry, I do love the myths of self-love. The other one is, sorry, I blanked.
No, you're good.
So the other one is, if I love myself, it means that I think I am perfect. And that couldn't be further from the truth, right? You love your kids. You don't think they're perfect, right? There are kids who are my daughter's age, and they maybe speak 10 languages, and they read well, and they play piano, and my daughter doesn't. I still love her more than those, kids. She's still my, special little girl. So it has nothing to do with perfection at all. And then some people think, well, if I love and accept myself as I am, I won't progress, or I won't grow as a person. And that, again, couldn't be further from the truth. Because you might love your car, you might love your house, and you still invest in them, right? You could repaint it, you could fix it, you love your dog, you buy him food, you train him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and those, actually, you have more potential for growth if you create loving environment for your mind and your body.
So good, so good. And I love that, because I shared a podcast recently on EFT tapping, and the core is that you deeply and completely love and accept yourself regardless of whatever you have going on for you. And I think that is such a powerful and healing thing to recognize.
Absolutely.
So I know that you have incredible tools at your fingertips that you share in your workshops, and you share hints and tips and stuff on your Instagram and things like that as well. But for anybody that's listening or watching, is there like something, little tool or tip that you could share to support them with any kind of self-love or healing?
Okay. So, well, the first little thing that comes to my mind after you mentioned EFT is just love your negatives as well. You know, that's important. That's something that takes practice. Loving yourself, not just when you're dressed up and, you know, doing something well, but also when you fail, when you're angry, when you're sad, just loving that sadness and loving that anger. That's a big one. But we can do a little visualization or
Yeah.
like a little exercise.
Cool.
And anyone can participate. Ideally, if you have a piece of paper, that's fine. If you don't, that's also cool. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And you have to think of an answer. And the answer is going to be a number from 1 to 0. And you don't have to share it if you don't want to. But I want you to remember the first number that comes to your mind. So do not overthink it.
Yeah. So you said 1 to 0. Do you mean 1 to 100?
What is that what I said? Yes, 1 to 100. Thank you.
I was like, 0.5. I'm only joking.
Right, yes, from 0 to 100.
100. Cool.
Yes. And the question is, what is your value as a person? What's your value as a person from 1 to 100? Without overthinking, just what comes to your mind. And now, when you have the number, I want you to visualize something. I want you to see yourself in a maternity ward, okay? I want you to imagine that your sibling or a friend who you love very, very, very much just had a baby, or their partner had a baby, okay? So you're in a maternity ward and you go to the gift shop and you get them flowers and you get the balloon and you go to the ward to find them and you enter their room and you see the mom and the dad and the tiny little baby and you give flowers to the mom, balloon to the dad, and they let you hold the baby. Okay, and you get to hold this little tiny human who was born, I don't know, 4 hours ago, and it's just so cute. And I want you to think, what is the value of this little baby? Maybe you can tell me, what do you think the value of this little baby?
Yeah, 100, 100, 100.
100, no doubt, right? And most people answered less than 100 to the first question I asked. And I just want to remind everyone that you were once that tiny baby. You were that baby. And you are still 100. When you were born, you were 100. And you knew that you're 100. You were confident. You have no self-esteem issues. You didn't criticize yourself. You were not afraid to show your emotions, right? When you didn't worry how you look in your nappy. Yeah. And when you were angry or uncomfortable, everybody knew. All the neighbors knew that you were unhappy. You were not afraid to show your emotions. You were confident as hell, right? And then as you were growing up, you heard things, you experienced things, you believed those things because everything you were told as a kid up to an age of 5 or 7, you took as absolute truth.
Yeah.
And then
it's also like try to find that missing piece, isn't it? You know, so if you've rated yourself at 60 or 70 or 44 or whatever, you know, where is that missing percent? Like, you know, focusing on getting that back, isn't it?
Yeah. And also, I think the most important part of this exercise is realizing that you will not feel like 100 every day. Right? Personally, I know that I am 100. I know it. But I don't always feel like 100. Sometimes I will wake up and I will feel like 65.
Yeah.
You know, some days in the evening I will feel like 44 or just 90. But here's the thing. If you don't know that you're 100 and you feel like 60, you will believe that you are 60, that is the truth, that is your value. And you will then act and just accept it. Oh, I'm just a 60, like whatever.
Yeah.
But if you know that you're 100 and you notice that you feel like 55, you'll be like, I wonder what's wrong. I wonder what I can do to feel like 100 again. I wonder what's making me feel like 55? Because I know I'm 100. I'm not supposed to feel like 55. Do
Yeah.
I need to rest? Do I need to go for a walk? Is something in my life not aligning with my values, like maybe my job, maybe something else? What do I need to fix?
Yeah.
You don't just accept that. And
Mhm.
that is the key point. You don't have to feel like 100 all the time.
Yeah. I wonder how many people who are listening or watching have cried at that moment where they've realized that they are, that when you do that kind of exercise and just you saying, that, yeah, you are 100 and you are lovable and as you are, I think so many people, I see it actually, when I used to teach meditation classes, and if we did a week on self-love, people would be like, oh, that's such a lovely thing to do. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, that class was like the hardest class ever. And, so many people would cry. It would bring up things for them. Yeah, it's just such a powerful thing to explore and yeah, to look at on the path of healing. So yeah, thank you for that exercise. So my book, my podcast, my way of living, everything is geared around the sensation of freedom, of really truly being free. And I just wanted to check in with you and, what is it that makes you feel free?
Mhm. Um, I think it's taking a responsibility of my life,
Mm,
or just knowing that I am responsible. When I started my journey, I followed Bob Proctor quite a lot. And he has this quote, which is, "You are the only problem and the only solution in your life."
love it.
I was like, wow, what are you saying, Bob? I am the only problem in my life? Like, that's, excuse me, I'm not
Yeah.
ready for and I would get defensive. Like, but this person hurt me and that person hurt me. Like, how am I the only problem? And then after digesting that, I would be like, but he also says that I'm the only solution.
Mhm.
Let's work with that. If I am the only solution, it means that I no longer have to wait for somebody else and to come and rescue me. And that's pretty much what I've been doing all my life, up to that moment, just
Yeah.
waiting for a prince to come and show up and save me and take care
Yeah.
of me. Oh, what a load of nonsense. Nobody's coming. Nobody has to come. Nobody's responsible for your happiness.
Mhm.
And that's so liberating. That makes me feel free, because if I am the only person who can save me, that's great, because I also happen to be the only person I control, right?
Yeah.
So if it would be, I don't know, my neighbor's job to save me, they might never come around to do that.
Mhm.
I there's no control. I can't control them, but I can control me. And yeah, that gives me a lot of freedom, a lot.
Yeah, so empowering, so empowering. And yeah, I think Louise Hay's book can actually be quite triggering as well, can't it? That you can heal your life because it's like, yeah, actually, it's you,
It's just a thought.
regardless of all the stuff that's happened in your life, how traumatic it is. But and when you read it, sometimes you can be like you said, annoyed and like, no, piss off, Louise, that's not true. And then once you process it, you're like, oh, okay,
Mm.
I'll take that, Louise. I'll work with that.
Yeah, I think it's especially so when you read about health.
Mm,
So yeah, I try not to go there. But
mm,
if you read Louise, you know that she also is a big believer in body and mind connection.
mhm.
And she has this whole list of what psychological issue causes which illness or
Yeah,
disease. And some people are just so not ready for that, and I get that. But yeah, so that's a quite a big
yeah. I
topic
think, but you know
there.
what? I think that's the part of that book that most people find really interesting, isn't it?
Mhm.
They'll go and have a little look and be annoyed by it, like he's, and then might be like, oh, actually, maybe I am holding resentment, or maybe I am, yeah,
It's
whatever
so
comes up.
accurate. Yeah, it's so accurate. It's scary.
Mm.
Sometimes I'll have like a little minor something in my body, and I'll be like, I'll check. And then I read it, and I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing this work in the world. And so if people want to connect with you and, what do you currently have available for people? How can they find you? Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes. So I think you're gonna add this information where
Yeah, I'll
your
pop it in.
podcast description
Yeah.
is. And of course, I have a website. I am most active on Instagram at the moment, so you can find me there. You can follow me there. I would love to have everyone there. Um, the okay, so the next thing that is coming up next week, I'm starting a group coaching, and it's a membership. So it's a self-love club. It is very, very affordable. It's £44 for 4 weeks. So it's like a gym membership. And it's a small group, maximum of 10 people. And we will be meeting every week. I will, so it's not a course. So
Yeah.
there is no structure to it, except that I will I will see where the group is at the moment, what's relevant, what's happening for everyone. And then everybody will get coaching. And I just have so much love for group work
Hmm.
because one-on-one is lovely. And I do one-on-one. If anybody would like to come and chat with me, I love that. But group work is amazing because sometimes we have some suppressed issues we're not even aware of, and somebody's going to share that, and we were like, oh, that resonates with me. And it opens up, you know, it shines a light on the thing that needs to be healed. And
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. And I have goosebumps because, yeah, group work is lovely. So there are 5 spaces available. And yeah, I would.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, that sounds so powerful. And I totally agree with you. And there always tends to be a theme, doesn't there, appears for the group, regardless of whether the people have met or not. And yeah, I heard something about, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was about shame. And, about the only way to kind of diffuse and transmute that shame is to have it shared in a really safe, valuable space. Actually, I know where I've heard it. I heard it in Brené Brown's book, but also on a podcast with Gabor Mate, like recently, about trauma, and just how powerful that group environment can be to recognize that you're not alone, that you are still lovable. When you see somebody else who maybe has the same issue as you, and then you're not going to think, oh God, well, she's a bloody idiot, or like, something horrible about whoever that person is. You're going to hold them with love and compassion. And yeah, I think that sounds like a really incredible offering that you're putting out into the world, and yeah, will be so valuable.
Yeah. And about the group, or just what you said,
Mm.
yeah, I just shared this on Instagram this morning that most people are unhappy because they think they're like under this illusion that everybody else has their shit together, that
Yeah.
everybody else is doing fine. And it's so easy to fall for that illusion because when you ask, especially here in the UK, whenever you ask anyone how they're doing, oh, I'm grand, I'm fine, good,
Yeah,
classic.
good,
Oh my
fine.
God, such a culture shock to me because when I came here, people would ask me, how are you doing? And if I wasn't doing well, I was like, well, actually, I had a bad day. And people were not ready for that. Like, because to you, it's just a hello, But so, yeah. And whenever people come together in a group in my workshops, there's always one key takeaway or one aha moment that happens every time is
Hmm.
that they come in and they realize that everybody's messed up, and that is liberating too. That is freedom as well, to know that it's okay for me to accept my issues because I'm not the only one. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with me. We're all messed up in one way or another.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's something that actually came up through my book club. We're currently reading my book in my book club, and a lady said that last week. She said it's so, because I am very honest and probably probably a bit like you. Someone's like, "How are you?" Oh well, actually. But in my book I was very honest, and she said that it's really refreshing. It's the first book I've ever read on anxiety and depression where I've thought like, oh my gosh, that is me. I can totally relate to that. just in that in itself is healing, as you say, just recognizing,
Yeah.
hey, it's not just me, like I'm not the only person, like there's nothing wrong with me, like, you know. So yeah, so powerful. So I appreciate you being here. Whilst we've been here, we've actually had sun, we've had snow in the background, which I don't know if you saw. It like went like a total
I
blizzard.
have
Now
to
the sun
hear,
is back. um so yeah, I don't know, is there anything else you want to add before we hop off today?
yeah. I think I would like to add that um, admitting that you need more self-love doesn't mean that you need to act on it. So I'll explain. Sometimes we have resistance to taking responsibility, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if I've had a hard life and I feel like a victim, I don't want to accept the fact that it's my responsibility, because in my mind, I feel like, oh, then I'll have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? And that keeps us, with a closed mind. It's like, I don't like to eat healthy food personally myself, so I avoid reading about gut health, because then I have this belief that if I read this and know this stuff, then I'll have to stop eating bad food and I'll have to start eating broccoli and stuff.
Yeah.
So I refuse to read those books. So I'll learn from my mistakes when it comes to self-love and just bettering your life. Opening your mind and accepting the fact that you are in charge does not mean that you have to take action straight away.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to know that you are responsible for everything and just sit with it and be like, you know what? I created this mess. My life is a mess and I'm not ready to clean it up. And that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. So
Oh,
that's what I'd like to leave everyone with.
that's so, yeah, lovely and reassuring. And yeah, small steps. And as you say, just having the awareness is the first part of the healing process, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, oh, well, I know we could chat for hours. I know we will meet again, and I will hopefully meet you soon in person. And yeah, we can chat for hours and hours. But yeah, everybody go give Yvette a follow. I will post all her links in the show notes below, so you can go check out her website, give her a follow on Instagram. There's loads of inspiring and supportive information there. And thought-provoking. Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff you share is quite thought-provoking. So go give her a follow, connect with her, and yeah, we'll maybe get you back another time, Yvette, on something else, because I'm sure there's so much we could share and talk about.
I'd love that. I had a wonderful time. Thank you so, so much. Thank you.
Amazing. Cool. So you take care, and I will speak to you real soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.